The morning sun poured through the glass walls of Hartwell Financial Group, one of the largest private investment firms in the country. Employees rushed through the lobby carrying laptops and coffee cups, unaware that before the day was over, the company's most respected executive would lose everything she had spent 20 years building. On the top floor, Victoria Bennett, a 46-year-old senior finance director, adjusted the sleeves of her tailored navy suit as she stared out the window. To the outside world, Victoria was the definition of success. She earned millions every year. She managed portfolios worth billions. Business magazines called her the Iron Woman of Wall Street. But very few people knew the price she had paid to reach that position. Long nights, missed birthdays, broken friendships, and a marriage slowly collapsing under the weight of ambition. Her husband, Daniel Bennett, had once been an award-winning architect. When Victoria's career began taking off years earlier, Daniel quietly stepped back from his own dreams to raise their daughter Emma. He packed school lunches, attended parent-teacher meetings, cooked dinner every evening. He never complained. Whenever someone asked what he did for a living, he simply smiled. "I take care of my family." Victoria appreciated him. At least, she thought she did. But over time, appreciation became expectation. Expectation became entitlement. Eventually, Daniel became invisible inside his own home. That Tuesday morning, Daniel walked into Victoria's office carrying a small paper bag. "I brought your favorite blueberry muffin," he said gently. Without looking up from her computer, Victoria replied, "Leave it there." Daniel nodded. As he placed the bag on her desk, he noticed her purse lying open. A $5 bill slipped onto the floor. He bent down, picked it up, and placed it neatly inside her wallet. Then he quietly left. 5 minutes later, Victoria opened her purse. The $5 bill wasn't where she remembered leaving it. She frowned. She checked every pocket. Nothing. Her expression hardened. She stormed out of her office. "Daniel." Employees turned their heads. Daniel stopped. "Did you take money from my purse?" His face froze. "What? My $5?" He blinked in disbelief. "I picked it up from the floor and put it back." "I don't believe you." Silence filled the hallway. Employees exchanged uncomfortable glances. Daniel laughed nervously. "You seriously think I'd steal $5? Victoria crossed her arms. "It's not about the amount. It's about trust." Daniel stared at the woman he had loved for 23 years, then quietly asked, "So after everything, this is what you think of me?" Victoria didn't answer. Instead, she called security. "I want him escorted out." Gasps echoed across the office. The guards hesitated. "Ma'am, I said escort him out." Daniel looked at everyone watching. His cheeks burned with humiliation. Without another word, he removed the employee visitor badge Victoria had given him years ago. He placed it on the reception desk, then walked away. Not a single person stopped him. That evening, Emma came home from college. "Where's Dad?" Victoria answered casually. "He left." Emma frowned. "What do you mean he left?" "I fired him from my life." Emma stared in disbelief. "For what?" "He stole from me." "How much?" Victoria hesitated. $5. Emma laughed, then realized her mother wasn't joking. Her smile disappeared. "You've got to be kidding." 3 days passed. Daniel never called, never texted, never defended himself. Victoria convinced herself she had done the right thing. Until Friday morning, she arrived at work to discover every executive gathered inside the boardroom. The company chairman looked unusually serious. "We've received notice that one of our largest private clients has requested an immediate withdrawal." Victoria nodded confidently. "No problem." "Which account?" The chairman slid a folder across the table. She opened it, her heart. "Account holder Daniel Bennett, Family Trust, requested withdrawal in 90,000. Victoria looked up, confused. "There must be some mistake." "There isn't." She frowned. "Daniel doesn't have $90 million. The chairman sighed. "Apparently he does." The room fell silent. Victoria's hands began to shake. She had spent years believing Daniel had sacrificed his career and settled for an ordinary life. She had never asked what happened after he sold his architecture company 15 years earlier. She had never cared enough to ask. The chairman continued, "The trust has been with this firm for over a decade. He specifically requested that another advisor manage the account." Victoria whispered, "Never knew." "Knew." The chairman replied quietly, "You never asked." Victoria rushed home searching through old files. Hidden in a locked cabinet, she found documents she had ignored for years. Daniel had founded a sustainable housing company. It had later merged with an international construction firm. His shares had quietly grown into a fortune worth well over $90 million. He had never mentioned it, because money had never mattered to him. Family did, and he had already lost that. She called Daniel again and again. No answer. Finally, Emma spoke. "You don't deserve him." Victoria burst into tears. "I made a mistake." Emma looked at her mother with sadness. "No. You made a choice." The following Monday, the board announced devastating news. Daniel's $90 million withdrawal triggered a wave of concern among other high-net-worth clients. Within days, several major investors transferred their assets elsewhere. The firm's reputation suffered. The board blamed Victoria for mishandling a family relationship tied to a key client. After 20 years, she was asked to resign. The woman once celebrated as the company's strongest leader left carrying a single cardboard box. No farewell party, no applause, only silence. As she stepped outside, she realized something painful. She hadn't lost her career because of $90 million. She had lost it the moment she valued $5 more than the man who had spent 23 years giving her everything. Victoria stood outside the towering glass building, clutching the cardboard box that held 20 years of her life. A framed award, a coffee mug that read "World's Best Boss," a family photo taken nearly a decade earlier, and a few office supplies were all she had left. Employees hurried past her. Some pretended not to recognize her. Others glanced for a second before looking away. Just 1 week earlier, everyone had greeted her with respect. Now she was simply another former executive leaving through the front doors. She placed the box in the trunk of her luxury car. But instead of driving away, she sat behind the steering wheel and cried harder than she ever had. Not because she had lost her job, not because she had lost her reputation, but because, for the first time, she understood she had lost the only person who had loved her without expecting anything in return. When she reached home, the silence was unbearable. Daniel's favorite reading chair was empty. His slippers were gone. The coffee mug he used every morning had disappeared from the kitchen. His side of the closet was almost empty. Only one thing remained. A small envelope resting neatly on the dining table. Her hands trembled as she opened it. Inside was a handwritten letter. "Victoria, if you're reading this, it means everything finally caught up with us. I didn't leave because of $5. I left because $5 showed me exactly how much I was worth in your eyes. For 23 years, I celebrated every promotion you earned. I stayed awake when you worked all night. I canceled my dreams so you could chase yours. I never asked for credit. I only hoped one day you'd look at me the way you once did. Instead, you looked at me like a thief. That hurt far more than losing a marriage." Tears dripped onto the paper. She could barely continue reading. "I never told you about the trust because I wanted someone to love me, not my money. You once told Emma that character is revealed in small moments. You were right. $5 revealed ours. There was no signature, just a tiny heart he used to draw on every anniversary card." Victoria collapsed into the chair, hugging the letter against her chest. For hours she replayed memories she had buried beneath meetings and deadlines. Daniel cheering for her after every promotion. Daniel fixing her broken car without telling her. Daniel waiting outside the hospital all night when she had emergency surgery. Daniel bringing her coffee every morning. Daniel smiling every time she forgot another anniversary because he believed next year would be different. She realized something terrifying. She couldn't remember the last kind thing she had done for him. The next morning, she drove to Emma's apartment. Emma opened the door but didn't smile. "What do you want?" "You need Dad." Victoria nodded. "I know." Emma crossed her arms. "You embarrassed him in front of strangers. You accused him of stealing. You never even apologized." Victoria lowered her head. "I know." Emma studied her mother for several seconds. For the first time, Victoria looked smaller than she ever had. Not physically, emotionally. "I don't know where he is," Emma finally said. "He didn't tell me. But he did leave me something." She walked into the living room and returned with another envelope. "It's for you." Victoria opened it. Inside was a cashier's check, $5. Attached was a note. "I never wanted to owe you anything." Victoria broke down. The check felt heavier than $90 million. Weeks passed. She searched everywhere. She visited Daniel's old friends. His college professor. The neighborhood where he grew up. Even the small diner where they had their first date 26 years earlier. Everyone had seen him. No one knew where he had gone. One afternoon, the elderly waitress who still worked at the diner recognized Victoria. You finally came. Victoria looked surprised. You know me. The waitress smiled sadly. Daniel talked about you every anniversary. He always reserved that same corner booth. Victoria glanced toward the window. The booth was empty. He waited there. Every year. Even when you didn't show. Victoria covered her mouth. He always ordered 2 meals. And after an hour he'd ask me to wrap the second one. He'd say. The waitress smiled through watery eyes. My wife is busy changing the world. Victoria couldn't stop crying. The waitress reached beneath the counter and handed her a small notebook. He left this for you 3 days ago. Inside were dozens of sketches. Beautiful houses, community centers, schools, hospitals. Every page carried the same title. The Bennett Hope Foundation. The final page explained everything. Daniel had quietly spent years designing affordable homes for widows, veterans, and struggling single parents. His $90 million trust wasn't meant to make him richer. It was meant to build neighborhoods where families could start over. In the margin, he had written one final sentence. Real wealth isn't measured by what stays in your bank account. It's measured by whose life is better because you lived. Victoria closed the notebook and held it tightly. For the first time in years, she didn't care about stock prices, luxury cars, or executive titles. She cared about one thing. Finding the man whose heart she had broken. She whispered into the empty diner. I'm going to spend the rest of my life earning the forgiveness I never deserved. But hundreds of miles away, Daniel was already beginning a completely different life under a new project, surrounded by families who knew him not as a millionaire, but simply as the kind stranger who helped them believe in tomorrow again.